when I think about threshold monitoring across the market, I like to do a visualization exercise of this balance beam. And on one side, you have legal documentation and costs. You have regulatory alignment. You've got custodial and infrastructure and all that future state architecture type things that you would need to do to be able to move IM over and above what you would do for variation margin on a daily basis. On the other side, you have threshold monitoring, which does away with almost everything on this side. You have a calculation obligation, or at least your dealer may have a calculation obligation on a daily basis, which is that threshold monitoring service that we talked about, which can be fairly lightweight. But what you have, what I think we've all just been alluding to, is that theoretical trading cap. Mm-hmm. So we say 50 million, that could be 48 million if you add in Hong Kong dollars. It could be 5 if we talk about euros, and if it's only euros specific. But if we look at investment managers or across multiple groups, we could be splitting that, and then we could be adding in soft limits. So on the right-hand side, when we're talking about threshold monitoring, we're talking with your counterparties about appropriateness. Is it appropriate to use threshold monitoring? Because let's assume all my activity is cleared or physically settled, and that's what's really taking me over the threshold. Threshold monitoring is probably the right thing to do. If I am a multi-managed beneficial owner, threshold monitoring starts to become much more complicated because my threshold may be split more entirely by me, depending on how you're documented or how your relationship is split. Maybe your investment manager has agreed to do initial margin for you and will do all the setup. Or maybe I will do that myself and everyone's on a mandate. That conversation is a conversation that needs to happen early. Yeah. And with your dealer community, and at least with HSBC, what we've done is over the past few years, we've been running daily SIM calculations and grid calculations for everyone of our clients. And we've taken a view of whether we think it's appropriate to put in place the documentation because we see the trading is going to go over a certain limit, or strategically, we don't want that theoretical cap of trading when we get there, stop trading. We'd want to carry on whether it's moving margin or not is the right thing to do. So we need to have those conversations across the market, have those conversations internally and with beneficial owners on, are we putting in place with certain counterparties, a certain amount of documents, and we're willing to move margin on certain relationships while giving relief to other relationships within the group and not having to pay for those and using threshold monitoring.
And one other thing, actually, Jakir, I'll add to that, because again, it's probably something that's in our minds, and we've looked at this in probably the last phase, is what probably a lot of people have to think about is, for institutions like HSBC, we're not just kind of papering one or two, or even if we do deem it's appropriate to paper someone, at the end of the day, we are all heading towards, I hate using the term big bang, it's been bandied about too much, but 1st of September, if you are over the 50 million and you're in scope, it needs to be papered, otherwise the consequences are you're stopping trading. And the thing is, there will be a huge amount of counterparties that do actually fall into that bucket. And that has to be the priority, because you don't want to have a situation where, trading is interrupted. And because you've got this big volume and you're all heading towards, can I use the word bottleneck? put them all in there. Yeah. But, the point is, it may be the case that even though the decision is, yes, it's the right thing to put documents in place, you have got a little bit of a buffer so you can go beyond the September, right? And we've sort of looked at that because at the end of the day, and Jakir's our global program manager, so has to make sure everything's done by the right time. But, when you're dealing with a huge volume that you have to get done, there will be some overspill,
I think